Hey y'all, this is Ebony with Ebony and Co. and all things according to me. And I know it's been a while, and I'm excited to get back into the groove of things because I've been away for a minute. But we all have to get ourselves together. But I'm working on it. I got a lot of content coming y'all way. I got some really good news, but I'm gonna wait before I share it because I don't want to announce things too early. But let's go ahead and get into why I'm here today. So, today I really wanted to discuss grief. Grief. Just honestly, not in the most terrible light, because a lot of times we associate grief with being so heavy, right? It brings the mood down. Most people don't like to talk about it. Most people don't want to discuss it. And of course, no one wants to be seen as the one being a Debbie Downer when it comes to just talking about loved ones you lost, whether that be friendships, family, any relationship to some form or degree. Some of us have dealt with grief and loss, and most of us have dealt with it in many different elements. But I'm going to speak on my story and how I have come to know grief. And for most people, it may not even be familiar to you because all of us have our different journeys and walkthroughs with life. And you might can relate, you might not. But I just want to share that despite the heartaches we may have when it comes to grief, the losses we take, um, trust me, it's not all roses, but it's also not the end of the world, even though it feels like it. So I'm going to start with my journey, and most recently with my brother passing. When my brother passed away almost 16 months now. Trust me, you just don't lose count. And he's my older brother. And unfortunately, I did lose him in an unfortunate manner. He did have an accident overdose. And it has been one of the hardest things I've gone through recently. Recently, I would say that it hit me like a ton of bricks. I do not recall crying that much, at least not in my adult years. Although I've had many losses, but to lose my brother in that manner, and of course, for me, the first thing I felt was guilt. I felt it. I couldn't help it because I am used to helping and saving everyone. Anybody needs something, I got you. I'm your girl. And of course, my first thought, like, I couldn't save him, despite all my many ways and trying to get him together. I just couldn't do it. And eventually, with therapy, I slowly learned that I'm not God. And it got to a point where I have to be able to save myself and self-preservation. And I say all that to say grief just brings out so many different emotions within. And I remember just being all over the place. For someone like me, it's not my first rodeo, of dealing with a loved one that lost. But this just hit me because I think I was so hands on with him and just trying to get him, help and just trying to get him together, get him in a different environment. It was just so many moving parts. And when it happened, I think I know I cried for 72 hours straight. From the moment I heard about it, I was here in Houston. I pulled up on the side of the road, hot, sweating, crying. And I was by myself. People were calling and all that. But above all, I was still just by myself. And quite honestly, I think I needed to be by myself. I didn't want to be around anyone. Of course, when someone knows that you lost someone, everybody is, oh, call, if you need any help, da 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 da. Most people ain't really trying to help. I've been down this road before, trust. A lot of people just like to say that they saying it and not putting any effort, but I'm gonna get into that later. But Yeah, I cried 72 hours straight. It was just I didn't even sleep for the first 3 days. I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep. And I remember boarding the plane. I had to book a last minute ticket to go help plan his funeral. And normally I don't do funerals because I think after seeing my younger brother pass and I saw him in his casket, that was the last person funeral I went to. And that was in 2007. Ever since then, everyone else who passed, I did not go to nobody's funeral. I did not. I would send condolences. I would send a gift. I would send the moon to you before I go look at another dead body or just go in the funeral. I didn't like the space that funerals. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. I say all that to say I haven't felt that kind of way. I don't think ever, because everyone else I lost in a major way. I was much younger, and don't get me wrong, it still hurt, but it was I couldn't control my body. I think on the plane I was just crying. I couldn't focus. The lady next to me, because I was listening to TD Jakes about grief, I just needed something. I needed to hear something else outside of my thoughts. And I remember the lady next to me on the plane. She said, "I don't know what you're going through." She said, "But I hope you'll be okay." And I just received what she said, but it still don't stop the pain, because at this point I'm going back home to bury my brother. And I had to do it. This was the one funeral I couldn't run away from because my younger brother can do it. I can leave him to care or do all the work. And somebody had to do it. So it had to be me. And of course, somebody was going to do it right, you know. But overall, this past year or so, I remember when it first happened, I was already mentally going through my own stuff. And then when that happened, I just couldn't work. I did not work. I think I didn't work for the first, I think like maybe 4 or 5 months, which is the first for me. Because ever since I was 18, I have always worked. And in most cases, I worked 2 jobs. Okay. But I couldn't do it. Mm-mm. People like, "You ain't working? Don't worry about how I'm working. Don't worry about how I'm maneuvering. I'm not working." I literally need to get my mind together. And as always with grief, it shifts. I found myself in another element of shifting. And I was slowly, not even slowly, I have lost all control. Whatever control I thought I had, that these moments, these past months and years that led up to that, it let me know I had no damn control. And also reminded me how much out of control I was because I became just impulsive. And if I was already all over the place then, I was definitely all over the place now. And I say all that to say that it was just heartbreaking. And for me, I don't have a lot of family. Um, so I'm going all through all this alone. And most of it, I kind of appreciate the loneliness though, because it was just me. And when you're going through something so heavy like that, it's best to kind of pause, see yourself, and whatever happens in those moments, you need to deal with it, right? Because I couldn't run away from it. I couldn't just find something to entertain myself. And don't get me wrong, I did travel. Oh, I racked up a nice little check, nice little bill last year, but I don't regret it. Like every chance I got, I traveled, but it was really me trying to I needed to get out of my house. I needed to get out of my comfort zone, so to speak. And I just needed to see something outside of the norm. And traveling for me is always love it. I love it. I love to travel, but this last year was very much more intentional and a little bit more impulsive. A little bit. I'm going through the moments. I'm gonna blame it on grief, but I dealt with it how I needed to, and I don't regret it. Me taking off work, taking the time I needed, and again, it really allowed me to focus on myself for the first time honestly, like probably in my life, pre-teenish adulthood life, because I've always taken care of other people. I've always been there for other people. I have always been the one people call when they need something. I have been the resource. I have done the heavy lifting. I have moved the mountains for everybody. And the irony of it all, a lot of it did come from my family, friends I've met along the way that are no longer friends, but just in general, like in those moments, it just allowed me to put a mirror up to myself and say, hey, you need to deal, because I was dealing with my own stuff, but I had no time, I had no room to deal with it because I was constantly, with my brother, he was a lot, and I love him to death. And I felt I did my duty, that's my brother. It's nothing he cannot have, and nothing that I would not going to give him, even though little tough love, but the answer was eventually going to turn into a yes, and some I was going to give in. But giving in also put me on the back burner as well in a lot of situations. And I say all of that to say, this time was needed. Because again, with me getting myself together mentally, I went to therapy. And, in therapy, you find out things about yourself. And it may not be so pretty, right? Or a lot of it just came from just avoiding myself. And I found myself, I'm busy with other people because it's avoiding me having to deal with me. Because as long as I'm busy dealing with them, which turns into resentment, I ain't got to deal with myself. But unfortunately, in my circumstances, most of my immediate family that I grew up with is already gone. And again, that's a heavy pill to swallow, a heavy reality to swallow, to know that, it's one thing to be at odds with people, but of course, with death, it's so permanent, right? It's not like the movies where people can come back, you can't wish it back. And I think that was the hardest part for me because, for someone who has dealt with so much grief and loss in my life, with my mother dying, when I was 6 years old. My grandmother died when I was 14. So after that, it was just me, and siblings and cousins. We just raising ourselves. And again, up until my brother passed, and I have been running for everybody, right? So to sit up there, and I'm back in therapy because I've been in therapy before, but I definitely need to talk to somebody going through this because my story was so unique. Mostly everybody I'm around, they have probably experienced loss, a cousin, you know what I'm saying, a little third cousin there, but to lose your mother, your grandma, all these core pieces of your life, whether they good, bad, or indifferent, they are gone in my life. And you see other people who still have their mothers here and their grandmothers here and all, just all these, support systems, right? And I found myself like I can't just journal about this because I'm big on journaling. I've been journaling since I was a kid. I needed to talk to somebody, and I needed someone to not only listen but kind of give back the feedback I needed to know that I was getting sound advice. And it was a couple of moments my therapy addressed like, but what about me? And it also highlighted a lot of things that I had with resentment towards a lot of people. Like I was angry at a lot of people, which I'll talk about at another time, just how I grew up and the dynamics and things of that nature. But I was pissed, but I was so used to just keeping it all together. And, for the most part, nobody tends to check on the person who seems like they got it together, right? And I've never been okay with sharing that side of me because unfortunately I've been in spaces and been around long enough to know, I hate to say it, most people do not care. You know what I mean? And either that or they're just not capable. Let me say that. Let me correct. Most people are not capable. And for my particular circumstances, with me losing most of my family, most people can't relate to that. They don't know how to address it, besides saying the cliche things or, oh, it gets better with time, or Hell, you have some people just avoid you at all costs because they don't know how to address you. What do you say to somebody who has lost most of their family? Right? So again, I find myself by myself having to deal with these emotions. So I did what I knew best. I journaled, I cried. It be times, baby, I would be up here, a song, anything familiar that's nostalgic that would bring up something from my childhood. I would just be boo-hooing. I could be driving down the street and just a moment. It can be a song, anything, and just be boo-hooing, right? And it just come out of nowhere. And I've learned to just let it be, let it be, let it out. There's no time frame. There's no, nobody's going to be here to stop you. And quite honestly, in those moments, I needed to boohoo, right? And I remember having a therapy session when she, it's so easy to bring up all the wrong things somebody have done to you or just how they made you feel. Like Maya Angelou, you never forget how somebody made you feel. You may not remember what they said, but you always remember how they made you feel. And it was a story about my brother and when we was younger, and I used to be scared of everything. I was scared of everything, but he knew that. And child, I didn't like Candyman, Jason. I didn't like the dark. And my brother would sit at the end of my bed until I went to sleep, and I was just boohooing, and I'm about to cry now. That was my brother, you know, and because it's so easy to forget, you know, and it's so easy to remember all the things that just, gave you a headache, all the ripping and running, feeling underappreciated, taken advantage of. And when I shared this story with her, I had to remember, I had to remember that my brother, like, he was my big brother. And it wasn't all bad. But life gets in the way. And, it's so easy to forget those little moments. And I just boohoo like I am now. It just came. And for me, I am always so well put together, because I don't let people see this side of me. Because, I've believed, and to some degree, I still hold on to that. People just don't care, you know. So I've learned to just deal with it how I know how to deal with it and keep it moving. So, with that being said, I also want to highlight, these are good tears, right? These are good tears. And, I'm definitely not in the position I was last year, especially when it first happened. Like, I was so out of sync. I can tell you what was reality, what wasn't. And of course, with me getting away and traveling, like, that was the best thing for me because if I would have continued to just sit in my thoughts, and that's something I have to catch myself on, which is something you all may have to do if you're going through, just heartache. You find yourself in these obsessive thoughts, and before you know it, you done went down the rabbit hole to the point of no return. And it's hard. It is hard to get out of that place, right? And I've been there. I'm human. I've been there. I can't lose all these type of people and not be in no rabbit hole. I've been there. So I say all that to say, get the help, which I did, and I still get help. And I just do it in my own way. I may not rely so heavy on friends, and a lot of it's because I don't. Again, it's just professional help is always best because you don't want to always come off as you're emotionally dumping on your friends. And you gotta hold something to yourself, right? And again, you don't want to put people in no uncomfortable position. You want to, you know, be easy, be light with people, because again, most people are not capable, and you don't want to put something so heavy. and expecting a response that you may not even get, and that can cause turmoil and issues with your friends group. So you kind of have to pick and choose who is right for those type of situations, because not everybody is capable, and that is okay. I'm learning that too. That is okay. Everybody, it's not for everybody. It's just not. So, to the next phase of dealing with grief, the thing I want to highlight is, yeah, you're going to go through all of the emotions and experiences when it comes to grief, but I really want to highlight the beauty that can come from it, because you start to see things in a different light. Like the story with my brother, perception is everything. Because once you get over, the heartache, and not even get over it, you just kind of know how to compartmentalize. It comes and go. Again, I am the most emotional person I know, but most people would never know that. But I say all that to say, do the work. And once you do the work and continue to do the work for however long, because time helps, but doesn't make it go away. And I think people need to stop focusing on how can I just get this out of my system. Because I'm not going to lie, I was like that. Like, this needs to go. You trying to find all these deep rooted meanings as to why this happened, and this is concrete evidence, and this is why it happened, and you need to do. And it's like, that ain't how this work. That ain't how none of this work. And you kind of just have to deal with your feelings as they come, because they're going to continue to come, because it's somebody you love, and people you love, it don't go away even when they're not in the physical, because those are moments, like, you spent time with these people, you know it don't just go away, and it won't go away. People you love, when it comes to that magnitude, until you die, they will always be with you. So me on the brink of that type of thinking, and oh, I'm crying. People who know me, I'm gonna talk about my grandma. Talk about my grandma, and it makes me find gratitude in my life, you know, despite the losses. But just looking back and thinking that somebody had to make such sacrifices and shelve their dreams, a life that got interrupted and made a sacrifice so I can be here, my sibling, and I'm gonna speak for myself, so I could be here. So I'm gonna honor that, and despite the challenges that come with taking losses, or just life and within itself. Because that's another thing. When you're dealing with grief and losing a loved one, life is still occurring. Things are still happening around you, things that are out of your control. And even with things like that, I had to be like, oh well, like, I know a lot of things that happened that would have triggered me so bad. When things didn't go certain ways, I would have flipped out, like, in panic, and thought the worst case scenario. And slowly, I just stopped. If I can't hold it like this, oh well, let it go, let it go. And I was just, I'm so used to, I'm just holding on to things, because of course that's another conversation. But I find myself always holding on to things, because even as young, you start losing people at a young age. You just try to hold on to who you got. You know what I mean? You just try to hold on to who you got. So to lose my brother, who was a very big part of my life, that was like, well, damn, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's like you live, like, I dropped this bottle, but it ain't that simple. And in my mind, you're trying to find logic in something that it ain't meant for you to understand. And you lose your mind trying to figure it out. It's really just boils down to not only letting go, but allow things to come in. And that could mean a lot of things, but you'll never know if you keep trying to hold on. And As sad as it may be for me, I realized with these losses came great responsibility for myself, because now I have no more. There's nothing else. There's no more distractions. There's no more interruptions. It is just me and me. So what you gonna do about it? So again, it is me facing myself and doing the work, doing what is necessary, and also no longer avoiding me. Because now I'm here. What you gonna do about it? Now I can change the trajectory and go ahead with the tide, or I can sit here and be mad and have a pity party with the whole coulda, woulda, shouldas, and why did, but you get nowhere, right? So when I say finding the beauty in grief, find out who you are, and find purpose. Like, we all are here to be purposefully here for each other, right? So find out who you are, and find beauty in what is gone by honoring those who are not here. And a lot of times, honoring them is to honor yourself. Don't just discard yourself, because the loss is gone, you know, and you're going to find yourself in the, or I'm going to speak for myself. I found myself building a relationship with God. Because quite honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I had a very difficult relationship with God since my grandmother died. I never forget, that was the one time in my life I prayed. And I'm talking about I prayed hard. And she died. I was so disappointed with God, you know. And it's been this constant tug of war ever since. And again, it's that false sense of control. And, I'm very hyper independent. I can't trust nobody. I can't depend on nobody. And I get it done. I get it done. And yes, that has made some great things happen in my life, but it caused me to also linger on to things longer, right? Be in spaces that I don't need to be in longer. So I say all of what I'm saying when it comes to grief and losing someone, maybe it's for you to find yourself. Whatever that may look like for you in your life and what's going on with you, it is literally finding, like, get back into you. And nobody can measure up to what was gone. And trust, I would love to have my brother here, both of my brothers, my mother, all my people. I would have loved for a second chance, and I can sit here forever on what coulda, shoulda happened, but that's not realistic. And I don't want to give myself up into a position where I'm being stuck, because a lot of that did cause me to be stuck in a way where I was caught up in the what ifs and shoulda, couldas, and eventually with time, and even now, I'm still working through just continuing to just find the beauty in things in life. And I will say, for someone like me who lost my mother so young, I appreciate, with everyone I've lost along the way, it caused something within me to be so much better. And when I say I love like no other, I love like no other, you know? And of course, I eventually had to make sure I'm pouring the same love into myself. But the way I love, the way I show up for others, the way I hold on to people, because I know life ain't promised. None of this is promised. And I don't play about that. I don't play about my time. I don't play about the people I F with. I don't, like, if I F with you, you gonna know it, you gonna feel it, you gonna see it until you can't no more. Right. And with that, I had to cut people off, because, and I ain't sugarcoating. I'm way too I'm way too grand for mediocrity in any relationship, because I love too hard. I give too much to just settle for any old thing in a relationship. I am more than a brunch, baby. I am that girl, and I can say that without making, feeling like I'm making somebody else feel some kind of way. It is what it is. It is what it is. It won't be no dumbing down for nobody and nothing. So I just look at a lot of things differently, and with the grief and the loss, it just allowed me to heighten other things that if I was okay with it before, just good, oh baby, I am great. When I say I am very intentional with who I'm around, who I choose to be around, who I entertain, I am very no nonsense, maybe a little too serious, but that's how I take life. I take life seriously. I take my time seriously because tomorrow is not promised. I may not be here tomorrow, but I want to have a good time today. I'm gonna enjoy my life today. You can't tell me ain't nothing I can't do. My grandma, yes, I'm gonna keep talking about her. That lady sacrificed everything for me to be here. What I'm not gonna do is let what she sacrificed, which was her life, for me to be here, and so I can sit up here and boohoo, or I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna do all I need to do, but I'm not gonna let my bad days make me have a bad life. And I'm gonna continue, and I got some things I'm working through, and that's okay, cause that's life. It's life, but it ain't gonna stop me. It ain't never stopped me. And again, grief has allowed me to see myself without making excuses, without trying to make other people comfortable with how, I don't think I don't think about nobody in that sense where I gotta dumb myself down in any capacity. In any capacity. I ain't doing nothing I don't want to do, but I'm gonna do everything I want to do. And with that being said, I want to definitely share the website because I wrote the article. I wrote the article. I'm coming with the article. And I want you guys to go on the website. I already have it pulled up here. So let's start with the website. You go to ebonyandco.com. Look at me, little chocolate thing. Click on read all about it. You can read all the articles on the website. And it's going to be the first article, Discovering Beauty in the Depths of Sorrow. And let's get that. And look at that. I wrote a nice little piece for you guys. And even if you scroll down to the bottom, make sure you read the 12 wellness habits for shifting and grief. This is very informative. I just came up with most of these off the top of my head of things that has worked for me. And I've already mentioned therapy and journaling. Like these are all necessary things that I would highly recommend doing if you're experiencing any type of loss. And if you have someone to lean on, my story is different. A lot of my stuff, I do solo, but I'm a soldier. But for those of you all who do have like genuine people around you who can fill you up, understand what you're going through, can pour into you, allow them to help you. Allow them to help you. And just check out the article. Make sure you guys not only read everything, but please comment, share. Like I really like these topics because they mean so much to me. These are things that I'm familiar with, and I would love to see you guys interact here. Make sure you share the video, comment, all the good things, all the good things. And I really want to thank you all for taking the time to be here in my little space. It is appreciated. I'm going to apologize for my tears, but I'm not. Hey, it happens to the best of us. And let me know how you all are dealing with grief. And are you going through it now? What are some things that you all can share about what you've been through? And I would love to hear back from you all. And make sure you like, subscribe, share, all the things, all the things. And I appreciate you guys for being here. Talk to you next time. Bye.